so in today's video what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the trail wrist. Now the trail wrist, if you like, wrist hinge is a really important part of the golf swing, and what's prompted this video is one, I've been working on this recently with a few students, but also what has been happening is I stumbled across a recent video on social media of Jon Rahm. Now somebody had bravely filmed Jon Rahm, they'd got the camera down and they allowed Jon Rahm to hit towards them, and I could just see the functionality of this arm coming in towards that hitting zone, and I was like, we really need to revisit this hinge and a little bit of the functionality of the trail arm, because I know that it helps a lot of students who come through that door. I know it helps students that I work with online, and I thought it would help you guys out as well. So the first thing to understand is, why do we need hinge? Well, we need hinge quite simply because hinge is the relationship between the back of my wrist and my forearm. It basically shallows the golf club. So it kind of has this effect on the club, and we need this because as we come in towards the downswing and we're trying to rotate, if I take away that hinge, you can see the way it makes the club shaft act too vertical. So for golfers who have a good rotation, obviously similar to Jon Rahm, you need to obviously kind of have a good understanding of hinge, because it will help you keep the club on plane as you continue to rotate, which is what I have in mind very much with today's explanation. So what I would say to most students first of all is, you don't want to just sort of swing back and just hinge for the sake of it. Okay, so there has to be a purpose for why we're trying to hinge. We know it's going to help us keep the club on plane, but we also want to be hinging and moving the arm in such a way where it's helping us maintain width. Now, the best way I think for me to demonstrate what width really means is if I sort of take this piece of rope here, and instead of me holding the club two-handed, if I now hold the club just right-handed, but you can imagine that basically the piece of string here has replaced my left arm. Okay, so see what I've done here. So this is now theoretically my left arm. So as I take this club back, what should happen is when I swing back, I should basically move my arm in such a way where I am pushing to keep the string nice and taut. As I come into the downswing, nice and taut. As I come into the through swing, nice and taut. Okay, so like so. Now what we don't want to be doing is at any stage is allow this hand to get too close to my body, because this goes really sort of limp and loose, and what we don't want to do is we don't want to let this happen and then just sort of hinge the wrist thinking that's acceptable, because it's not. We need to be moving the arm in such a way where it's always pushing this away from you. Okay, so we understand that. Now what I want to do is I want to talk about feelings in this video, okay, and feelings in terms of, again, this idea of pushing the club. So we'd get set up to the golf ball, we'd hold the club as you normally do. Now in the takeaway, you just want to feel like you're moving the club to the side of the body, like so. But it's at this stage, in the early backswing, when we start really picking the club up. And I say that because in the setup position, my trail arm is pretty straight, okay? It's only got a slight amount of bend in it. And in the takeaway, it's still pretty straight. But what starts to happen is that this arm naturally has to start bending for me to kind of help produce like a wrist cock and stuff and sequence a backswing. So it's at this stage when the arms bend that I see a big problem with golfers. And what we need to do is when I start allowing this to bend, the feeling that I want you to have is that your trail palm, okay, is facing the wall, like so. Okay, now I want it to feel like that. Now if I do it towards you guys, so I want to sort of take it back like so, and then I want to see that my palm is facing towards you guys. Now that's the feeling that I want you to have, because you can imagine if my wrist is positioned like that, it's helping me push that arm nice and straight. Now you can imagine though that there'll be lots of you that are questioning. Now you can obviously, if you see the difference in these angles here, but that's happening due to my forearm sort of rotating. So as my forearm sort of supinates in this sort of fashion, it has this sort of effect. So what I'm saying is, if I hold the club like that, that would be quite typically on plane. If I was too much this way, it's too vertical. If there's this way, it's more laid off. That's your forearm rotation. But what we're trying to avoid is doing anything like so, okay, like this. I want you to try and get that palm facing the wall in that early backswing position, because that's going to give you a really strong hold on the golf club. Boom, like so, like this. And then we can swing it up, okay? Now, as you then come into the downswing, you're obviously going to rotate. And again, you're going to get the feeling of pushing down. So at this stage, coming in towards the downswing position, it's now like my right hand and my palm is facing the floor, okay, like so. Okay, and then as I come in towards impact, obviously it's still going to feel to you like my palm is facing down towards the ground, and then as it goes through, the feeling will be that it's going to face more up towards the sky. Okay, now why do I want those feelings? Well, I want those feelings for a few reasons. One, because if you start thinking about functioning your wrist in this sort of manner, it will help you apply width, and that's the mistake that most golfers make. They don't apply enough width. The second one is that what tends to happen with most golfers is that they over-rotate the club, so they start doing things like this. So having the feeling of your hand pointing more down to the floor will basically bring your hands and arms more connected towards your body. The other reason why I want that sort of feeling of it doing this is because it will trigger better rotation. So if you sort of, if I do it right hand only now, I sort of take the club back like so and then swing it here so it's facing the wall, and then I point it down towards the floor, and then I point it down towards the floor. It's kind of like, because my wrist is angled like so, the only way I can get that club on the back of the ball is to rotate and clear my hips. If I'm somebody who has quite a square body and square pelvis, then, I can hold on to this angle, but look where the club is. Whilst if I rotate, see where it is now. And then as I swing through, if I'm basically rotating through, then the feeling will be that I won't need an excessive amount of arm rotation. So I can kind of get the feeling of, again, my palm facing up towards the sky, right, like so. So, like I said, I wanted to produce this video because I always want to give you guys experiences that I know that work really well for students. And when I was watching that John Rahm face on video, and I really saw that forearm sort of stay very square towards the target, and he kind of releases in this sort of fashion, I thought, well, that would be a really good feeling for lots of golfers out there that are trying to trigger more rotation and are having tremendous difficulty when it comes to sequencing the golf swing whilst maintaining width. Now, the way you would then do this, in terms of from a practical sense, is if you take hold of the club and then just keep your index finger and your thumb in contact with the club and take the three remaining fingers away, like so. And what this should do is this should just improve your awareness between the relationship of your trail palm and your lead thumb. So as I now take this club back, I'm going to, in that set up position, feel like my arms are relatively nice and straight, and then straighten this move. But as I then allow this trail arm to bend, see my palm doesn't come away, it squashes my thumb away from me. So I'm always applying pressure outward, like so. And then as I come into the downswing, I'm going to rotate to my lead side again. Palm stays in contact with thumb. Coming towards impact, palm in thumb. And as I swing through, palm in thumb. So as I just hit some gentle shots here, you can see the way that my palm stays in contact with my thumb all the time. And I'm not saying it'll be an easy drill and you'll be able to do that straight away. But what I am suggesting is it's a really good drill. Okay, and it's the kind of drill that you want to be very bad at, but learn to get very good at. Because if you can start swinging, improving that relationship between your palm and your thumb, the results are going to improve dramatically. And I always tend to see with golfers that you start to become more aware of the wrist positions, tend to find that their body starts to behave differently as well to accommodate the new learning of those wrist positions. Let me know how you're getting on. I'll see you soon.